All right, we're going to pick up the end of chapter 17, all right, because I'm not sure if I can get to it. So, kingdom fungi, all right. They are multicellular, heterotrophic, means they have to have other organisms to feed on. They are mostly, we think of fungi, we think mostly of saprobes. Saprobes are the way that there's a certain kind of decomposer, right? This is the way fungi obtain nutrients from non-living organic matter, causing its decay. So they're decomposers. Some of them are consumers. Some of them are consumers that are parasites that live on the tissue of living hosts. The difference between fungi and animals is one difference, major difference, is that they have cell walls around their cells. It's made of chitin instead of cellulose, all right? They have this ability to digest things outside the body, right? This is called extracellular digestion. So if you ever watched the Fly movie, all right, and Jeff Goldblum is the bad guy, he's the Fly, and the boyfriend comes to the rescue of the fair maiden, all right, and they're struggling with each other, and Jeff Goldblum throws up, looks like onto the arm of the boyfriend, and the boyfriend's arm just melts away. That was awesome. First of all. Secondly, if a fly was that big, that's how it would feed. All right, a fly lands on a potential food source. It releases enzymes through its straw-like mouth. The food item then liquefies, and then the fly sucks up the food through its straw-like mouth. And this is similarly how fungi work. They will release enzymes from their little things called hyphae. This goes around them, and it liquefies the possible food sources, and then they reabsorb everything back into the hyphae. All right, very cool. They reproduce sexually and asexually. They produce spores and gametes. And these hyphae are little root-like things, all right, that allow them to extract nutrients from dying and decaying matter, or from its host, if it's a parasite, right? When they all come together, all these hyphae are intertwined, and they make a mat. And this mat of hyphae is called a mycelium. Mycelium, all right? So if you pick off the little blue part of the mold on the bread, and then you eat it, are you eating fungi free from your bread? And the answer is no, because those hyphae, that mycelium, is winding through the bread. You're just taking the fruiting part of the fungus and pinching it off. It doesn't bother me to eat pinching off the blue part and eating the rest, because I just take it as like antibiotics, right? It's a good dose of antibiotics. There are two types of fungi. There's club or cup fungi. These are what you think of a mushroom, a shelf fungi, puffballs, and these are all saprobic decomposers. Then there's things like smuts and mildew and rusts, and these are all. Some of these are parasitic, and some of them are crop pathogens that kill, like blue mold on tobacco. All right, that kill the plant. Sac fungi have a different kind of formation of their fruiting structures. So the saprobic examples are penicillin and some mildews and molds and yeast. And morels are edible, saprobic sac fungus that people pick out in the woods and eat. And then there's some parasitic like candida, which is the causative agent of like yeast infections, which is a sac fungus. So some examples of a mushroom at the top left is a club or cup fungus. That particular one is an amanita. It is extremely toxic, right? And you see the shell fungus below it. We're going to move over and look at the sac fungi real closely. So all those moldy things are types of sac fungi. And there's an example of the morels, which are a saprobic type of sac fungus down the bottom right. Some mushrooms are edible. However, there have been many so-called experts that have picked the wrong mushrooms and have paid the ultimate price for that. And you do not want to die from mushroom poisoning. They make rat poisoning from it. It just systematically shuts down organ systems and is not a very nice way to go. I would not eat any mushrooms picked out in the wild, period. Because it's very, very difficult to know which is the right one and which one's not. So if I were you, I would eat the ones that, the agaricus, the general mushroom that everybody eats on pizzas and all that kind of stuff. Portobellas and shiitakes and those kind of things that are grown and sold in grocery stores. I would not eat anything that somebody says, "Hey, this is a mushroom. It's awesome. You ought to take some." Of course, you all are past that point in your lives, and so I would not eat any mushroom, even the morel down the bottom. It has a very distinctive look, but there is a false morel that looks almost identical, that will cause you digestive distress, diarrhea, right? And you really probably don't want to do that to yourself either. So I would my advice to you is don't eat any mushrooms that were not purchased from a store, a legitimate source, all right? And you can tell that to young people that you interact with, because one of those bad mushrooms can cause a lot of problems. But the last thing is down the bottom left. There's a type of club fungus called ergot. Ergot is a fungus that is a crop pathogen, all right? And it's a pathogen on rye, right? Back in the Middle Ages, in Europe, wheat was not the #1 grain product. Wasn't the #1 milled grain for bread and things like that. It was rye. Rye is susceptible to this fungus infestation called ergot. And as ergot is being parasitizing the rye, it produces an alkaloid called lysergic acid, which is a relative of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. We're talking LSD, right? And so ingestion of ergot can actually cause hallucination. Now, if you were a person who is eating rye bread that is contaminated with ergot, and you say that you can actually see music notes coming from the harpsichord, and people are looking at you, what is the first thing they think of? They think you're possessed, you're a witch, all right? And during the Inquisition times, some of the people who were killed as a result of being witches more than likely had been tripping on hallucinations from ergot. All right, this particular fungus has impacted history in a negative way. So, mushrooms can really be a bad thing if ingested and you ingest the wrong ones. Fungi will form relationships with other organisms to form another type of thing, okay? And this relationship is called symbiosis. All right, symbiosis is just a relationship between species living closely together. These can be parasitic. Parasitic is when one species is harmed and the other is benefited, like we talked about with Giardia and things like that, malarial parasite. Or they can be mutualistic. This is where both partners benefit, neither one is harmed. And this is the kind of symbiotic relationship that fungi have in the form of lichens. Lichens are a mutualistic relationship between the fungus and normally an algae, but sometimes a cyanobacteria, those blue-green algae, and where the algae or the blue-green algae provide food for the fungus, and the fungus then provides a structure, a home for the algae to live. And so lichens are found on bark of trees and other things, and we'll see those here in a second. There's another mutualistic relationship. It's called mycorrhizae, and this is where the fungus lives with the roots of a plant, particularly orchids. Orchids have this mycorrhizal relationship between the fungus in the soil and their roots. They have to have that fungus in the soil. If they don't, they can't survive. They can't get the water and nutrients out of the soil on their own to be able to live. So this fungus allows them to help do that, all right? And in turn, the plant provides food for the fungus. So that's mycorrhizae. So let's see here. Those are lichens, and you've probably seen them. They're on bark of trees. Some of them are flat. Some of them have some three-dimension to them. They're leaf-like or something like that. So those are lichens. So this is end of chapter 17. Your exam will cover 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now that seems like it's a lot of chapters, but really 3 of those chapters are just very, very short, all right? So it's about the same amount of material, maybe just a little more than what we've been going over in the past 2 units, all right? And so we will see you later on today.